Kia ora, good morning, everybody. What we're doing is looking at chapter 4 this morning. And chapter 4 is really another drilling down from Solomon's perspective on the meaning of life, or in his case, the lack of meaning in life. And so what we've got from Solomon, just to remind ourselves, is this big picture look. Solomon's in a unique position because he hasn't got his nose to the grindstone, working out his daily life by just simply putting food on the table. He's wealthy, he's privileged, he's educated, and he's experimented with his life by exposing himself to as much pleasure as the human heart can handle. And he has come to the conclusion that it's all meaningless. And of course, we will never get to experience what he experienced. And so it's a matter of faith to sit there and read his words and say, well, we believe you, Solomon, because you're so depressed right now. We do believe that what your experience has been is something rather traumatic. But there's another side to Solomon. We're going to start seeing this in chapter 4. Let's have a look at what he says. Again, I looked and saw all the oppression that was taking place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, and they have no comforter. Power was on the side of their oppressors, and they have no comforter. So what Solomon's saying here is something that should encourage us, because what we've got is a king in an ivory tower, somebody who lives in a palace and has everything at his disposal. But he has seen something that really disturbs him, and that is the plight of the oppressed, okay? And he is seeing people who have been taken advantage of, and they have no one to comfort them. He's seen people who are being oppressed by people maybe from foreign nations to militarily have taken them over, or maybe it's just the way they get treated at work and, slave labor, etc., etc. And for me, when I read what Solomon's written here, I am comforted by this because I like to trust people who have the ability to see the whole human experience like this. It's so easy from a distance to just ignore people who are suffering, ignore people who are struggling. But Solomon is looking right into their experience, and he's saying, this is really, really bad. This is really, really bad. And we would expect him to say, now I have a plan to fix it all, but he doesn't go there. Because as we are starting to understand Solomon now, he would say, well, look, I could fix it, but it's not going to go away. It's that sort of thing about the human experience and the human condition, which brings oppression from one person in authority on top of another person. And so this is the way life is. And he gets to this conclusion, and I'm sitting there looking at him going, man, you have everything, and yet you're struggling with somebody else's negative experience. And I like that. It's called empathy, okay? And in this case, you can't fix everything. You can maintain an awareness of and space in your heart for how others are doing. Okay, it's easy to be sympathetic if you're sorry for them and then you move on, but empathy means that you carry that. And there's a sense in which Solomon is carrying this pain that he sees people around him experiencing on a daily basis. And he's not going to let it go. He's going to live with that. He's going to try to somehow reconcile it if possible. And it's very easy to dismiss things, isn't it? I don't know if you notice the way that the television news brings really, really bad news to us. But within a month, the bad news is still happening, but it's just gone off their radar, isn't it? It's like, hey, folks are still being killed in the Ukraine. Folks are still being killed in Gaza. How come we're not hearing about this anymore? It's like they don't owe us empathy. They just owe us the news, And so we see this and we say, man, Solomon, your view of life is really, really depressing. Could it get any worse? Well, it does. Here it goes. And he says this, and I declare that the dead who had already died are happier than the living who are still alive. But better than both is the one who has never been born, who has not seen the evil that is done under the sun. And you go, wow, that's not a fridge magnet scripture, That is not a promise from God, is it? This is truth, but it's seen from the perspective that Solomon is saying, listen, life out there really, really sucks for some people to the point where I'm guessing they wish they were never born. And there are people on our planet now having that experience today. They're wishing they were never born. And Solomon's literally telling us what we know some people are thinking today and were thinking 3,000 years ago. And here we are again living and seeing the human experience through Solomon's eyes and in all of its gory story going on. But it's true today. This is the way it is. And we look at Solomon and we go, are you a good leader or a bad leader? A good leader for seeing it and a bad leader for not acting upon this. You see, Solomon is not a perfect leader. One of the things that we would see if we carried on his whole story would be to see that at the end of his life, his son Rehoboam steps in to take over the kingdom. And the folks there come to him and they say, Rehoboam, we thank you that you're the new king. Please don't treat us as hard as your dad did. Yeah? So what was going on is that he built all these palaces, he built the temple, he built gardens, etc., and he worked the people really hard. Rehoboam went and took some counsel from his young mates, and they said, go back and tell the people that I'm going to treat you twice as bad as my dad did. So that's what he did, and his kingdom split, wasn't very good public relations at all. All right? So here we've got an imperfect person saying, I see the oppressed. At the same time, he is still getting what he wants out of the people as they are asked to work for him. Yet, in the midst of it all, and this is the vagaries of human nature, we find that there's a softness to him. And having a soft heart in a cruel world is courage, not weakness. You think that's fair to say? When everybody says they deserve it, someone says, no, let's show some grace. Let's show some mercy. Let's show some kindness here. That is a godly response to a difficult scenario. And sometimes we just want to be rid of all that evil because why? Not because we want justice. We just want to get it out of our head. We want to get it out of our eyes. We want to get it out of our face so that it doesn't upset us. We get to the point where you just get overwhelmed with it, particularly with social media's 24/7 newsreel coming through our phones, etc., etc. The world is actually at peace now more than any other time in history. There's less war and less death occurring today than there has been at any other point in history. It's remarkable, isn't it? But why do we not feel that? Because we just have it rammed down our throats through social media. It doesn't mean that the folks who are struggling in war are feeling any better about it themselves, because that's their reality. So, now, Solomon moves on and he says this, and I saw that all toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another. That too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. It's interesting, isn't it, how envy is a subtle thing that drives us. And really the Western world, capitalism is driven on this system, the old idea that if I can inspire you to buy something new and shiny, that will just keep the wheels of industry turning, doesn't it? So we get fascinated with shiny things and we like to show our friends our new shiny things and we aspire to buy more shiny things. And this is sort of how it goes, and envy is the way it works. I had an experience when Michaela and I were relatively young. We were leading a small group at our church and had a whole bunch of folks our age. I think we were probably the only ones with little kids, but all friends our age. And this guy, a friend of ours, Paul, guy I knew from school, comes in one night and he goes, hey, I've got to ask everybody a question. How much money do you earn? And we're like, oh, why do you need to know that? And he says, well, I've applied for a job as a salesman, and one of the things in the application is I have to record what my friends earn. And so I thought, well, that's no big deal, I told him what I earned, others did as well. And a couple of weeks later, he came back and we said, did you get the job as a salesman? He goes, no, I didn't. Why? Because you guys don't earn enough. So what was driving this is quite fascinating, isn't it? The employer was wanting to see that their employee was hanging out with people with a lot of money, because that would drive them to make more sales, because they would want to keep up with, because they were envious of other people's lifestyles. You see how that works? Does it make sense in a weird way? It does. But it just shows you that people can tap into this understanding of envy to the point where they will say, I have to lean in on your envy to be a good salesman for me. Yeah? Maybe something a little bit more simple. 17 years old, my folks built a swimming pool. And it was a lovely pool. Some friends of my dad's came in and they built the pool. That was their income-making pools. And some folks around the road who we knew as a family and we sort of grew up together as kids, they decided they wanted a pool as well. And so when Doug went around to give them a quote for the pool, he said, "How big do you want the pool?" And they said, 6 inches bigger than the Vernal's pool. I mean, seriously, it's pathetic, eh? But it's just this competitiveness. And you go, wow, really? Is that what drives people? Sadly, Solomon says it is. And we've got to own it. So it's like when light comes into darkness, when you bring the light into the darkness of envy, you expose it and it gets stripped of its power. That's why we talk about these things. So don't be driven by envy. Then Solomon says this about those who are lazy and those who are super greedy. He says, the fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh. Better a handful with quietness than both hands full, together with toil and grasping for the wind. So he's got a lazy person here and then someone, comparing to someone who's trying to fill their life up with too much. And this translation is actually from the New King James Version. It talks here about the consuming of your own flesh. And I think it's a great picture because it says if you are lazy, you're not going to eat and you effectively waste away. You're consuming your own flesh by not being someone who works for a living, earns some money, and then can feed themselves. I mean, this is a society that didn't have anything that we would understand as social welfare. It was really, really simple. But the thing is that work gives dignity, doesn't it? Work not only gives money, it gives identity, it gives purpose. And work is in itself a gift because whilst we are forced to work through the fall, work redeemed under God gives us pleasure. It gives us the ability to go out, make a difference, helping our community. And that's the beauty of what it means to be somebody who's got a job. Better a handful, we're told, with quietness than both hands full together with toil and grasping for the wind. And it's interesting that Cheryl, who led our music this morning, had this vision this week of these balls and, just get too many and you just got to hand them all back to the Lord, don't you? Then ideally, just pick up the ones that count. I saw this on a T-shirt in London, and like you, I thought, I don't know what that means, but thankfully they had a translation underneath it on the same T-shirt. Less equals more. It's a real balancing act, isn't it? We can be consumed and overwhelmed with our things. We know that. The more things you've got, the more things get broken, the more things deteriorate, the more things, you know how it is. I love going to the dump. It's a great feeling, where you go, I've finally concluded that piece of something or that broken thing will not get fixed and it has no value, and in it goes. And my wife's walking around the shed going like this, because she loves it. And then she goes into my wardrobe and pulls out all my clothes, and I'm going, no. That's my favorite. That's my lucky hunting shirt. That is, you've got all, yeah. So, but you go to the dump, and over at Tamanga, they got this huge machine. It's just like grinding teeth. Any of you seen it? It's wicked. I didn't think such a thing existed. It looks like out of a horror movie. And all your old stuff gets thrown in there and just into dust. Beautiful. Great feeling. Now, one of the things that Michaela and I have enjoyed over the years is doing these long walks and Camino. And there's Michaela doing one, starting off. And the beauty of doing the Camino is that you have this moment in time where you strip your life back to the absolute minimums. 2 sets of clothes, one you've got on, one you got in your backpack. Okay, and life just becomes so simple. You just walk, eat, wash, walk, walk, eat, wash, walk, walk, eat, wash, walk. And you repeat that for X amount of days until you get to the other end. But it's quite challenging. We talk to folks, particularly in the first week, it's like, it's not what did you bring, it's what did you leave behind. That's the question. And so there's a level of freedom that happens, particularly amongst the women, I've noticed listening to them chat over the coffee cups, where they come to the conclusion that they can live with 2 sets of clothes. They don't have to get up in the morning and go, does that go with that? Should I wear that or that, The only choice they've got is what coloured walking socks they'll wear today, with their only pair of shoes and their only pair of pants. And as far as makeup is concerned, it's just a matter of do I wear my lippy today or not? Because that's all you've got going for you. Yeah. And so it's a beautiful thing to minimize your life down to those basics and realize that everything else is vanity. Vanity. That's what Solomon tells us. So none of you are going to go on a Camino now, are you? Because, yeah. So Ecclesiastes says this, and this portion is taken from the Message translation. I turned my head and saw yet another wisp of smoke on its way to nothingness. A solitary person, completely alone, no children, no family, no friends, yet working obsessively late into the night, compulsively greedy for more and more, never bothering to ask, why am I working like a dog? Never having any fun, and who cares? More smoke. A bad business. A bad business. See, Solomon captures something also about the human condition, that even if you're on your own and you don't have a real purpose to make a whole bunch of money to feed your family or pass on as some sort of inheritance to friends or family, people are still obsessed with working hard, because even if it's of no value to them, their identity is wrapped up in this reputation that they have. Or it's just that they can't get off the treadmill. And I think it's fascinating. We live in an age and stage of life where we're working is one of the big values that we have subtly within our Western world. And yet here we have 1,000 years before Christ, we're being told that there were people doing exactly the same thing as we see now. Isn't it amazing? The human heart doesn't change. Charles Dickens tapped into this really well with the story called A Christmas Carol. And here we have Ebenezer Scrooge. That's such a great name, isn't it? It's something mean and miserable about the name Ebenezer Scrooge. It just seems to have caught our attention. But Ebenezer lives this life of misery and poverty. He's horrible to his staff. He's miserly over every little penny that he owns. And he has this revelation and a dream, 3 visitations to tell him how life is going to end for him and then how it could be different. And so we see this picture, and of course the transformation happens, and Scrooge has a revelation, and he wakes up and he becomes a nice person. But different countries or different areas have different values. I was down in Southland some years back teaching on a youth with a mission school a couple of times, right in the heart of Southland, Riversdale. It's a farming area. And one of the values down there, I was quite intrigued by this. Every time I was introduced to somebody, they said, this is Bill from Tapanui. He's a hard worker. Oh, okay, g'day, Bill. Oh, this is Fred from this area. He's a real hard worker, And this is my young friend, just employed him. Guess what? I know, he's a hard worker, It's just this value down there of something about we prove ourselves by working really, really hard. Now, this was really funny, true story. We got up one morning midweek and there was a big sign. We were in Riversdale. There was a big sign just outside of town. And it had a picture of this guy on it, young guy, about 25, had his name, and he said, this guy is looking for a wife. So all the traffic driving by, looking for a wife. They must have their own tractor. Please send a picture of the tractor. Classic sort of line. So his buddies had set him up to do that. Now, I happened to find this picture, and I don't know if this is this guy's wedding, but it's probably something along the lines of the values that he'd hold, Yeah, hard worker. But the whole thing about this idea that you would work and work and work and have no purpose to do this, not even any fun. Solomon says this. He says, this too is meaningless, a miserable business. That's where we get the word misery and miserly and miser from. Yeah, or the other way around. And so we look at this and we go, wow, 3,000 years ago, the same thing was happening. And so now we look at some passages that talk about, he starts to pick it up a little bit more and starts to say there's value in being known and value in having friends. He says this. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So the 3. I've used this a number of times when I've taken weddings, talking about the 3, the third person being Jesus in your marriage. So you've got 2, 2, 2, 2. Then right at the end is 1, extra 1, and that's the Lord. The thing about this whole understanding of friendship is that loneliness is a real killer. It's one of the biggest curses upon our community is that isolation, that people find themselves just locked in their rooms, locked in their apartments, watching Netflix, thinking that this is the way they're supposed to live their life. Old people, young people, and it's a real scourge, and it's really causing a huge amount of depression. But I like, this is just a shift here. The Olympics has been on, okay? It's been great, isn't it? The Olympics are always great. Apart from the opening ceremony. The French are weird. That's all I can say. How they could do what they did, I don't know. But let's not go there. But how many of you watched the triathlon? Hayden Wilde comes in, winning the whole way and gets pipped at the post. But it was a real drama, wasn't it? It was a fantastic story. And the more that I watch the Olympics every year, the more I hate it. You know why? Because it just reveals to me that I'm just a marshmallow, Like I embarrass myself in front of my children, I'm seeing these guys winning these races and I'm like, oh, it's amazing. It's really cool. But it really got me when watching this race, you hear the backstory of this guy, Dylan McCulloch, who's the teammate of Hayden Wilde. And what does he do? He's the first out of the water. He's ahead by 30 seconds in the leading group on the cycle race. And he knows that his mate, Hayden Wilde, is a better athlete than him, but he's going to need a hand to get up into the leading group. So what does he do? He drops back about 30 seconds in pace, drops back and basically says, hitch on, we're going for a ride. And he drafts him. You know how they follow, cyclists get right close to each other and they draft each other? And he dragged him up into that leading group. Isn't that amazing? He sacrificed his own place. He got 19th. He sacrificed his own place so that his mate, who he knew had a better chance of getting a medal than him, would get slingshotted into that space where he could have the best possible chance of winning. 2 are better than 1. Yeah? 2 are better than 1. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. That's why I hate the Olympics. I'm like, oh, it's so good. So good. And the 2 Kiwi girls who won the rowing, with their little babies on the side. Oh, it's so lovely. Yeah. You could take up rowing, hun? No? Okay. All right. We've got communion elements that we're going to hand out to you now. And we're just going to shape our time here towards something that Solomon didn't have. And that is hope in Christ. You see, all of what we're doing as we look at Solomon's words, we've got to realize that he didn't have the revelation of who God is in Christ. Yeah? And it's just unimaginable for us to try to understand how it is that Solomon could work out the world around him without Jesus. And this is why he's so sad. This is why he's so depressed. Because there's nothing that breaks into the cycle of cynicism like Jesus does. He says this, better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king who no longer knows how to heed a warning. The youth may have come from prison to the kingship, or he may have been born in poverty within his kingdom. I saw that all who lived and walked under the sun followed the youth, the king's successor. There was no end to all the people who were before them. But those who came later were not pleased with their successor. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. So what Solomon is saying is that we have this cyclical pattern, okay? And people, this is my summary, people under the sun are both naively optimistic and brutally cynical. You see what's going on, and we see this time and again with our politicians and maybe in the arts with our musicians. But people trend, don't they? They come up and they're super popular. They're going to be the savior of our economy, the savior of our whatever it might be. And we throw them up on these high pedestals. And politicians know that this is going to happen to them. What they're trying to do is they're trying to extend that high point before they know they'll ultimately crash and become yesterday's news or last decade's news. And so what Solomon is saying is that this is just a repeated pattern. A young leader, a young king will rise up and everybody goes, yay, look at this person, they're fantastic. And then they get to the stage where they start to go off the charts and the next generation rising up going, boo, look at that old king, what a useless fella he was, but look at our young guy, yay. And so this cycle, we see it in music. Okay, Taylor Swift is just, an uncharted territory as far as her popularity is concerned. But if we go back to my day, Strauss, Beethoven, ABBA, Bee Gees, those guys were pumping, And then you get to the stage about 15 years later, it's like, do you listen to the Bee Gees? No. Do you listen to ABBA? No. And you find your favourite records in the $2 bargain bin, And this is just the way then they get a little renaissance happening. This is what happens. There's always hope at the end for a musician. But this cycle, and it's a cynical cycle, and it's a cynical view that Solomon has of the world, but it's real. It's true. It was in his lifetime and his experience, and it's in ours as well. So, as I mentioned before, how do you live this world without Jesus? We need to have a lens through which we can see the world. Otherwise, we end up in this sad, sad space that Solomon is in because there's nothing to interpret, nothing to break in and break the cycle of all of these arcs that we see Solomon describing of life and sadness. It's better not to even be born, Solomon says, because it's just so oppressive. How do you break into that? Well, Jesus did. Jesus came into our world. God sent him that he might throw open that doorway of understanding, bring light into our world that allows us to see whom God is. Not only that, but create a pathway for us to have a relationship with God through his own sacrifice. And now everything has meaning and it has purpose and it has life and it's bathed in love. And my identity is wrapped up not in who I am and what I can achieve, but in being a child of God. That is a beautiful thing. And it's a thing that Solomon never experienced. And that's why Solomon is so depressing to read, because he has no hope. He's got everything else, but he has no hope. I'm going to keep it simple today, and I'm just going to read to us from Luke, where Jesus spoke to his disciples. When the hour came, Jesus and his apostles reclined at the table, and he said to them, I have eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. For I tell you, I will not eat it again until it finds fulfillment in the kingdom of God. And after taking the cup, he gave thanks and said, take this and divide it among you. For I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until the kingdom of God comes. And he took the bread and gave thanks and broke it and gave it to them, saying, this is my body given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And in the same way, after the supper, he took the cup, saying, this cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you. Let me pray. Lord, I pray that in this moment of time, we just get to see how blessed we are. This revelation of God that we hold in our hands right now, that his son's blood and body was broken for us, just sets the world apart from the world of Solomon. And Lord, we can only partially imagine how difficult it would have been to make sense of anything in our world without Jesus. So Jesus, we come to you in gratefulness and we just say thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you that you went to the cross willingly for us. that you would die for our sins, and that brings us reconciliation with God. And in doing that, you offered us new life in the power of your resurrection. So, Lord, I just want to pray that as we eat and drink together today, we pause in this moment and just say, wow, what a blessed people we are. Let's eat and drink together. Amen.